So if you guys don't remember me, I'm one of your TAs. I'm TA number 3, that's what I call myself. I'm KN, and I'll be teaching your lesson today because, well, Mike's in Russia, so yeah. Yeah, so I know you guys had your first exam a couple of days ago. How did that go?
A little rushed, not talking.
Okay, sounds good. All right, then we won't talk about it, but because you guys just had a super kind of intense exam, we just want to give you guys a break. So today I'll be teaching you guys a little bit about nuclear energy. So this lesson won't be super in-depth. There won't be a lot of crazy intense math. Actually, there won't be any crazy intense math because we just want to give you guys a break. You guys are going to be starting up full cycle on Friday with really cool topics like stopping power. So for now, it's just kind of like, it's a refresher. A couple of fun facts. A couple of guys might already know some of the concepts I'm mentioning because you guys are intelligent people, but I walked into MIT not knowing a single thing about nuclear energy, and I was like, I wish someone could have told me these things, so that's what I want to do for you today. Okay? So I'm going to be talking about kind of like the functionality and the benefits and the problems associated with nuclear, but first let's start with a very brief history in a nutshell. So between 1895 to 1945, that's when really cool people were developing nuclear science. So people like Madame Curie or like Fermi, etc. They were all designing this nuclear science, like they were developing it, which is pretty cool. Most of this development happened between 1939 to 1945. Does anyone want to take a gander as to why? What?
Manhattan Project?
Yeah, exactly, but what field? The Manhattan Project, which is
Nuclear weapons.
World War II, yeah, exactly. So World War II was happening during those times, and they were trying to develop the atom bomb, which is why the majority of nuclear science was developed between these like 5 or 6 years. Then 1945 to 1960, they entered a phase of like, well, the war's over, now what do we do with ourselves? So luckily they decided to redirect this science into using it for energy and harnessing it in a controlled fashion. So mainly the focus was actually for naval submarines, but they also realized like, we can use this for like energy as well, for electricity as well. So there's a lot of really cool things that happened in between these years. And then in 1953, President Eisenhower, he created something called Atoms for Peace. So this is just a program that advocated using nuclear for things that were peaceful, such as electricity instead of like nuclear weapons and stuff. The real heyday of nuclear was actually between 1960 to 1975. So during the span of 15 or so years, this was like the real commercial energy boom. People like Westinghouse were creating nuclear reactors. So other different companies and other different countries were doing this as well. Basically, there was this huge boom in nuclear energy. So if you look at this little chart over here, this is nuclear reaction construction throughout the years. So if you look in this little chunk, you can see what a massive peak there was. This was like when everyone was building nuclear reactors. People thought it was super jazzy, and everyone was trying to jump on that. Unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end, though. From 1975 to 2002, which is about this chunk over here, you can see a massive decline, and then you can see that nothing really happens between the 90s and the 2000s, other than the fact that we were all born. But no new nuclear reactors were being commissioned during this time. And then today, we're kind of, I say we're back, but basically we're entering what people like to call a nuclear renaissance, which is between like this chunk over here. You can see that there's been a slight increase in nuclear reactors being produced, but basically there's been a whole new push for creating more advanced reactors. And currently, China, India, and South Korea, they are the main like players in this game. So China itself has 32 reactors operating at the moment, and they have 20 more commissioned, like literally right now, which is kind of insane. So yeah, do you guys have any questions about this? All right. So what causes like nuclear resurgence? This is the perfect time to talk about why nuclear power is cool. Again, you guys probably already know this, but the main reason is sustainability. So right now we've entered a phase in time where people are starting to realize that we've done damage to our environment. We've got to fix this. So global warming is a thing. I promise you it's actually a thing. And basically we're looking for a way to produce electricity without creating such a large carbon footprint. So if you look at this chart over here, you can see that when you look at that in comparison to coal and natural gas, which is our 2 primary sources of energy at the moment, you can see that this is definitely more attractive. So the statistic is actually that nuclear creates 75 times less carbon emission than coal does and 35 times less than natural gas does, which is incredible and amazing. So that's the main reason why we're going for nuclear. But there's other kinds of really good reasons. One is the amount of power output. You know just how much power or energy comes out from one fission reaction. So you can see that you definitely need a lot less fuel in a nuclear reactor than you do in a normal like coal burning reactor. And then finally, the last thing would be energy security. So one of the good things about nuclear is that it can serve as a good baseload source of energy. So if you're working in the energy sector, you probably see this chart all the time of like time versus like energy that's being consumed. And it's kind of like this like fluctuating like little mass that stays like fairly constant, but at certain times of the day, like you need more energy than usual. So this is just kind of like the energy demand during the day. That's what this chart kind of crudely depicts. So nuclear power is able to provide a good baseload source. That means like it can provide constant energy at a really high level all the time. So this is why we kind of want to replace coal and natural gas with nuclear, because it can take this role. Other alternative forms of energy might be better for the environment, it might be safer and things like that, but it's not really able to do this. So for example, if you want to replace all the coal burning fire plants with solar panels, if it's not sunny that day, you're kind of like out of luck, right? Like you can't produce energy if it's not sunny outside. Similar for wind, if it's not windy outside, you're not getting any electricity. Luckily for nuclear, it doesn't have to rely on any of these factors. You can continuously produce energy, right? So do you guys have any questions about what I've mentioned? Awesome.